Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Let's get a general overview of all the basic tools you need to know to start with Autodesk 3ds Max 2017. Leave us feedback to improve our next video guides. 3ds Max is a professional software used for 3D graphics, animation, design, and game development. We will see the most basic tools, but you may need more practice to know how to use this software professionally. When you open 3ds Max, a dialog box opens. On the left, you can quickly open recent projects made in the past. On the right, you can pick a ready-made template to start straight with a new project. Let's have a look at the workspace. We will take the default one, but you can choose your preferred one in the top left corner. This workspace is used to check and preview your project in different ways, called viewports, and each can contain several points of view. By default, you have a viewport that shows 4 points of view: top, front, left, and perspective. You can change each point of view by clicking on the 3D view cube in the top right corner. You can also rotate in 3D by using the orbit command in the bottom right corner and clicking and dragging on one of the points of view. Use the escape key to finish with the tool. This 3D environment is regulated by Gizmo system in the bottom left corner, indicating the 3 main space directions through the X, the Y, and the Z axis, each with its own color. The X and the Y axes indicate the ground plane, which is also where the virtual grid lays, whereas the height of your object always spreads over the Z axis. On each point of view, you have several preview settings in the top left corner. By default, you usually have the wireframe view, which shows just the skeleton of your objects. If you choose default shading, you can get a more complete preview, especially on 3D objects. On the far left, you can create your custom viewport. For example, let's create one with a single big point of view. Let's see how to create objects. On the right, you have the command panel, which collects most of the main features 3ds Max has inside. Under the Create tab, you can create 3D objects, 2D objects, and other special ones like lights, cameras, helpers, and forces that we won't see in this beginner tutorial. Geometry collects all tools to create basic regular 3D objects like boxes, cones, and even 3D text with Text Plus. Select one from the list and click and drag on your workspace. To draw an object, you have to fix a base by clicking and holding your pointer. When you release it, the base is done, so you can fix height and the final shape by clicking on your workspace. Use the escape key to undo. To finish instead, click outside the object. Under Shapes, you can draw 2D objects such as lines, closed paths, and polygons. Through Line, you can draw lines continuously. Use the escape key to stop drawing. Use Ctrl and Z to undo all the lines instead. As long as you click on your workspace, you fix straight sides. If you click and hold, you will drop curved sides. When using other 2D tools, like rectangles, arcs, and closed shapes, you have to click and hold to draw them. All objects created are listed inside the Scene Explorer, the panel on the far left. Your project can be composed by several workspaces, and each workspace lists all its objects created inside. If you click on an object, you will select it on your workspace directly. Plus, if you use the eye icon on the left, you can hide or show each object if you need. Further on the left, you can filter the kind of objects you want to see listed in the Scene Explorer. Let's see how to edit objects. On top, you have several icons used to move, rotate, and scale. Use Select and Move to move an object. Select an object from the left panel or click on the object itself when your pointer becomes a small cross. Then, click and drag to move the object. If you prefer, you can also use the gizmo system to move along the main X, Y, or Z directions. Just click and drag from one of the main arrows or a plane between two ones. To rotate an object, use Select and Rotate. Select the object first and then click and drag using the gizmo system, here represented with colored circumferences, or using the external circle to rotate respect to your current point of view used. To scale an object, you have to choose between three different tools. Select and Uniform Scale is used to scale the object keeping a constant aspect ratio along the chosen direction. Select and Non-Uniform Scale scales the object freely, whereas use Select and Squash to stretch the object by keeping constant just its volume. The third icon is used to quickly move and rotate an object by selecting it and then moving or rotating it according to the ground plane only. If you make a mistake while editing or creating objects, you can use the undo and the redo arrows in the top left corner. To delete an object, use the delete key. You can also edit multiple objects by selecting all of them at once. To select multiple objects, select each object one by one while holding down Ctrl. When you apply any tool, this will affect all the objects selected in the same way. To undo your selections, click Elsewhere. Inside 3ds Max, you can also edit each object by acting on its own subcomponents, also called sub-objects. Right above the workspace, there is a bar called Ribbon. This lists important editing tools that can be applied on both 2D and 3D objects. We will see just the modeling section in this video. Under Polygon Modeling, you choose between the object subcomponents you want to pick, its vertices through vertex, its edges through edge, its border through border, its faces through polygon, and the whole object through element. Once the subcomponent is chosen, you can select this interested directly on the object. Hold Ctrl down to select more of them. These will be shown in a red color. Once they are selected, you can use the Move, the Scale, and the Rotate tools seen before on those. This will actually deform the original object shape, obtaining a new custom shape as you like. Next to Polygon Modeling, you have several tools to edit your object professionally, starting from the object itself or its sub-objects. For example, if you go under Geometry All, you can edit the overall 3D object with several tools. Hover on each one to get information and help about them. The next tab changes depending on the sub-object selected on the workspace. If you select Edges, you will get the Edges tab used to apply extrude or chamfer. If you choose a face with polygon, you can apply some bevel and so on. All these modifications made by using these tools and sub-objects are saved inside a unique layer or modifier called Edit Poly inside the command panel on the right. In fact, if you hide the modifier through the eye, you will retrieve the original object shape you had. If you want to create a new modifier to save other modifications apart, go to Apply Edit Poly Mod under Polygon Modeling to add a second Edit Poly modifier on the right. That will collect another collection of modifications applied on the object and its subcomponents. You can also right-click and go to Rename to rename each modifier in order to recognize the changes applied. Under Polygon Modeling, always check the modifier name in order to check to which modifier the new changes will be saved. The command panel is also used to apply advanced editing on objects. On top, choose the color to apply on the selected object. To add more advanced tools, you can search for the proper modifier from the whole list. For example, if you choose Melt, you can melt the object as an ice object, adjusting amount and settings more below. To remove any modifier applied, just right-click and go to Delete. Inside 3ds Max, you can create and edit objects, but also make animations with them. An animation is made by using fixed states called keys, inserted through the timeline right below your workspace. A single key saves a particular state of the selected object in a fixed instant of time, so that if you place two keys in two different instants of time and with different states, you will make a transition between the first state and the second one. In this way, the object moves and changes as you like in time. Just click on Set Key below to add and manage keys more easily. Then, start by adding the first key, which saves the starting state for the selected object. Just click on the big plus below. The keys on the timeline are shown as small markers on their fixed time frame. At this point, go to the second instant of time used to end the animation, clicking and dragging on top. This moves the playhead marker that sets the current frame observed on your workspace. At the right time frame, edit the object as you need, and then click on the big plus to add the second key. This will save the object state as you see it on your workspace. To check your animation, use the player in the bottom right corner. In case you don't see all the modifications applied, you go to Filters. For example, if you tick Modifier, your new keys will save also the current state chosen for the object modifiers. Do this before making your animation, since the old keys set won't follow the new filter settings. To delete keys, just right-click and go to Delete Selected Keys. The distance between the two keys set also the animation velocity. The closer they are, the faster the animation will be. You can move a key in time by selecting it and dragging it on the left or right. Remember that each set of keys in the timeline below are related to the object selected only. So, each object will have its own set of keys linked. When your project is done, save it going to the 3ds Max icon in the top left corner and going to Save As. These are saved in a .max file format and used to open your project in a later session of 3ds Max. This is just an overall overview about 3ds Max 2017. If you want to learn more about other Autodesk software, check out our channel.